Aiman, the quiet teenager who just wanted to be left alone, became the target of an online nightmare. Nurul, the relentless journalist, uncovered a web of cruelty, while the smiling bullies who controlled the trend hid their true intentions behind viral videos. This is the shocking story of the Smile Challenge, a game. It turned fear into fame and left a Malaysian town questioning who they could trust. In a small town in Malaysia, life had always been quiet, predictable, and safe. Children went to school, neighbors exchanged greetings, and social media was a casual pastime rather than a threat. But everything changed when a new online trend called the Smile Challenge appeared. It started innocently enough. Teenagers began posting short videos of themselves, smiling in public places, daring friends to do the same. At first, it was lighthearted fun. People were encouraged to smile at strangers, spread positivity, and participate in a harmless viral game. Social media feeds filled with cheerful faces, and the trend quickly gained popularity. However, behind the seemingly harmless smiles, a darker pattern began to emerge. What no one realized was how quickly the challenge could become a tool for humiliation. Some students discovered they could use the trend to assert power over their peers. Those who refused to participate, or who smiled awkwardly in the videos, became targets. Posts that once celebrated laughter and joy started being edited, mocked, and shared with captions meant to ridicule. Videos of classmates who struggled to smile were circulated with cruel commentary, and the likes and shares only fueled the behavior. The Smile Challenge, which was meant to bring happiness, began to carry an unspoken threat: join in or face public embarrassment. At first, the bullying was subtle. A group of older students would snicker whenever a peer refused to record a video. They whispered comments in the hallways, exchanged knowing looks, and created private chat groups to discuss who was weak or awkward. Many students tried to ignore it, thinking it would pass, but the harassment was relentless and methodical. Every day brought a new video, a new post, a new wave of peer pressure. Students who wanted to avoid the challenge found themselves isolated during breaks, excluded from group activities, and mocked in the most unexpected moments. Even the quietest corners of the school became unsafe. The online component made the bullying almost inescapable. Smartphones ensured that the mockery could follow victims anywhere: home, streets, or even while walking to school. Anonymous accounts emerged, sharing screenshots and videos with malicious intent. The content spread rapidly, reaching not just classmates, but entire online communities. Parents and teachers were initially unaware of the severity, dismissing the trend as typical teenage behavior or harmless fun. But the digital footprint was growing, and the consequences were becoming real. Amid this rising tension, a sense of fear began to replace the smiles. Teenagers who once embraced social media now hesitated to check their feeds, worried about what they might see. The pressure to participate became more than just a challenge. It was a silent demand for compliance. Students felt trapped, unsure if refusing the trend would damage their social standing, expose them to ridicule, or worse. The Smile Challenge had transformed from a playful dare into a weapon, wielded with precision by those who knew how to manipulate fear. In this small town, what began as an innocent viral game was quietly setting the stage for a series of events that would shock the community. The Smile Challenge, with its cheerful facade, was hiding a growing storm of intimidation and psychological torment. Those who appeared confident and carefree in their videos were masking anxiety, uncertainty, and fear of becoming the next target. And as the challenge gained momentum, it became clear that no one was truly safe from its influence. As the Smile Challenge continued to sweep through the town, what had once been playful excitement began to shift into something darker. The subtle whispers and sidelong glances of the first chapter of bullying were now replaced by open mockery and calculated humiliation. Students who initially participated with nervous smiles were soon met with cheers when their videos didn't meet the expectations of the trendsetters. Every awkward smile, every forced laugh became a reason to shame them publicly. The anonymity of social media amplified the cruelty. Screenshots and clips were edited with mocking captions and shared across multiple platforms. Even students who tried to avoid attention found themselves unwillingly drawn into the viral storm. Some of the victims began receiving private messages from anonymous accounts. At first, these were simple warnings to participate, but quickly the tone shifted to insults and veiled threats. A single refusal could trigger dozens of notifications, all designed to break down the sense of security in everyday life. What had been a simple schoolyard dare turned into a relentless campaign of intimidation. The students behind the challenge seemed to take pleasure in the spread of fear, delighting in the way victims' expressions changed when they realized their personal struggles had been broadcast online. Teachers and parents struggled to understand the situation. To many adults, it appeared to be typical teenage behavior, an exaggerated form of social media engagement rather than a serious problem. Even when screenshots of cruel edits were shown to school authorities, the responses were dismissive. "It's just kids being kids," some said, or "they'll get over it." Meanwhile, the victims' lives were unraveling. Some avoided school altogether, fearing the shame of being seen in the hallways or in another viral video. Sleep patterns were disrupted, anxiety levels rose, and the pressure to conform to the Smile Challenge created a psychological trap from which escape seemed impossible. The bullying expanded beyond school grounds. Friends and classmates who were not directly involved began participating in the online mocking, often unaware of the deeper consequences. Each post, share, or comment added another layer to the growing cloud of harassment. Students who had once been confidants found themselves torn between loyalty and fear of social repercussions. Even the safest environments, home, family gatherings, or quiet streets, were invaded by the spread of humiliating content. The challenge had created an environment where no one could retreat, no place felt secure, and the line between public and private life disappeared. Amid this chaos, a few students tried to push back. Some refused to participate entirely, while others attempted to stand up for the victims. Yet their resistance often made them targets as well. The more someone resisted, the more attention they attracted, and the more sophisticated the harassment became. The anonymous accounts escalated from simple teasing to direct threats, leaving victims constantly looking over their shoulders. It became clear that the Smile Challenge had evolved into a weaponized tool, one that could manipulate behavior, force submission, and instill fear with terrifying efficiency. The town remained unaware of the true scale of what was happening. While social media users outside the town laughed at the videos, the real victims were quietly suffering. Their smiles, once a symbol of innocence, were now a mask of fear. The viral challenge, intended for entertainment, had morphed into an instrument of psychological torment, leaving a trail of anxious, withdrawn, and broken teenagers in its wake. And as the posts continued to circulate, it became increasingly clear that this was only the beginning of a much larger and darker story, one that would eventually shock the entire community and force everyone to confront the dangers lurking in seemingly harmless online trends. Among all the students caught in the relentless spread of the Smile Challenge, one young boy named Aiman stood out, though not for any bold action or defiance. He was quiet, thoughtful, and kept mostly to himself. He preferred reading and sketching during breaks, rather than participating in the latest trends. When the Smile Challenge arrived at his school, Aiman felt the pressure immediately, though he tried to ignore it. The first video he was dared to record made him uneasy, and he hesitated. That hesitation, small and human, was enough to mark him as a target. The very moment he declined, the subtle whispers and sidelong glances he had once noticed turned into focused attention. Classmates began to notice Aiman's discomfort and used it against him. Videos of him forced to smile awkwardly were captured, sometimes edited with mocking captions and shared among students and online groups. The more he resisted, the more persistent the harassment became. Private messages appeared in his social media accounts, each one more taunting than the last. Some were simple jokes, but many contained veiled threats, implying that if he didn't comply, worse humiliation awaited him. The psychological weight of these messages began to gnaw at him, and slowly, the school hallways that once felt ordinary became corridors of anxiety. At home, Aiman's parents noticed changes in his behavior almost immediately. He stopped sharing stories about his day and grew quiet during family meals. Sleep became elusive, and his appetite declined. A sense of dread seemed to follow him, even when he was in what should have been a safe space. The private messages and videos had crossed the line from harmless online interaction to targeted psychological torment. He began avoiding friends, fearing that any association could make him another target, and the isolation only worsened his anxiety. The Smile Challenge, meant to encourage harmless participation, had become an invisible chain around his daily life. The bullying did not stop at online humiliation. It spilled into real life, as classmates would mock him openly in hallways and classrooms. Simple interactions became minefields of fear. Every glance could carry ridicule. Every whisper could contain gossip. The awareness that videos of his awkward expressions were circulating online amplified the torment. The pressure to maintain composure while being watched, evaluated, and judged at every moment was relentless. His mind began to dwell on questions no teenager should face. How much of himself could he show before becoming the next subject of public shame? Could he ever escape the scrutiny? Despite the mounting pressure, Aiman tried to hold on. He clung to small routines, like sketching quietly in his notebook, but even these were not enough to shield him from the growing storm. The Smile Challenge had created a culture of fear, where compliance meant temporary relief, but defiance brought severe consequences. It became clear that the challenge was no longer a simple game. It was a mechanism for control, humiliation, and dominance. And for Aiman, who had only wanted to be left alone, it became a daily struggle between self-preservation and the cruel demands of a digital trend that had turned his world upside down. What began as subtle teasing had evolved into a relentless siege on his confidence and well-being. The lines between school life and online life blurred, leaving him trapped in a cycle of fear and anxiety. With each passing day, the challenge spread further, ensnaring more students, and the town remained unaware of the invisible torment consuming its quietest residents. Aiman's struggle marked the beginning of a deeper understanding of how a seemingly innocent viral trend could transform into something capable of breaking spirits and threatening lives. The first signs that the Smile Challenge had gone far beyond a harmless trend became painfully clear when Aiman's parents noticed drastic changes in their son's behavior. Once cheerful and engaged in his studies, he had withdrawn completely. His laughter, which used to fill the small family home, disappeared, replaced by long silences and anxious glances at his phone. He stopped sharing his school experiences, no longer talking about classmates or daily routines. Even simple requests, like getting ready for school or finishing homework, became struggles. His parents tried to comfort him, but every question seemed to deepen the invisible walls he had built around himself. Something more serious than ordinary teenage stress was unfolding. The discovery of threatening messages on Aiman's phone escalated their concern. Anonymous accounts, untraceable at first, sent messages that were no longer playful or teasing. Some messages threatened exposure, promising that if Aiman continued to refuse the challenge, videos and edited images would be sent to a wider audience, even beyond the school. Others hinted at physical harm, though in vague terms, making it impossible to determine whether the threats were empty or real. The messages were relentless. They arrived day and night, sometimes dozens at a time, leaving Aiman with little chance to recover his sense of safety. Horrified, his parents approached the school, expecting immediate action. They explained the harassment, presented the messages, and pleaded for intervention. Yet the response was frustratingly dismissive. Administrators described the situation as normal teenage behavior, suggesting that he should ignore the messages or that it was merely a phase that would pass. This response, or lack thereof, only deepened the family's anxiety. While authorities within the school minimized the severity, the online harassment continued to escalate unchecked. Aiman, feeling abandoned by the adults meant to protect him, sank further into isolation, trapped in a digital nightmare with no clear escape. Outside the confines of the school, the Smile Challenge continued to spread like wildfire. Videos of Aiman, initially captured as part of the challenge, were shared and reshared, reaching not only his classmates, but also unknown viewers in neighboring towns. Each share amplified the humiliation, reinforcing the sense that the entire world was watching his forced smiles and awkward attempts to comply. What started as a peer pressure game had transformed into a relentless cycle of public shaming and private terror. Even the briefest respite time spent offline or at home was no longer safe. The fear of exposure and ridicule followed him everywhere, leaving no sanctuary. Aiman's mental and emotional state deteriorated under the weight of constant fear. Panic attacks began to appear, triggered by simple events such as receiving a notification or passing by classmates who might recognize him. His sleep became fragmented, leaving him exhausted and unable to concentrate. The combination of school harassment, online threats, and a lack of institutional support created an environment that was increasingly dangerous to his well-being. What had seemed like a harmless viral trend months earlier had now become a sophisticated mechanism for psychological torment, targeting the vulnerabilities of teenagers in the digital age. It became clear that ignoring the challenge or attempting to resist quietly was no longer an option. The threats were escalating, and Aiman's parents understood that immediate intervention was necessary. This first warning, however, was only the beginning. The town, the school, and even the wider community remained largely unaware of the growing danger, and the digital storm surrounding the Smile Challenge showed no signs of slowing down. What had begun as innocent fun had turned into a dangerous game, leaving a trail of fear, anxiety, and uncertainty that would not easily be forgotten. As the Smile Challenge continued to wreak havoc on Aiman and other students, a breakthrough came from an unexpected source, a local journalist named Nurul, who had been tracking rising reports of cyberbullying in schools across the region. At first, the cases seemed isolated, scattered incidents of online teasing that were easy to dismiss. But as she dug deeper, Nurul began to notice a pattern. Many of the victims were from the same school, and the incidents all traced back to a specific group of students. What had once seemed like random acts of mischief was, in reality, an organized network of harassment, carefully coordinated both online and in real life. Using her experience in digital forensics, Nurul started to piece together the evidence. Anonymous accounts, private chat groups, and edited video clips were all connected to a handful of students who had taken control of the challenge and turned it into a weapon. Screenshots of conversations revealed planning sessions, lists of targets, and instructions on how to humiliate those who resisted. The journalist discovered that the students had created a hierarchy with leaders who directed the actions of others, ensuring the bullying reached as many victims as possible. The Smile Challenge was no longer just a game. It had evolved into a methodical operation designed to assert dominance, spread fear, and punish dissent. The investigation uncovered more than just online coordination. Nurul discovered that the students were also orchestrating in-person encounters designed to embarrass and intimidate their targets. Hallway confrontations, forced smile video sessions, and sudden social exclusions were all part of the plan. The challenge had created a culture where refusing to participate or expressing discomfort could result in real-life consequences. This level of planning shocked the journalist, who had initially assumed the harassment was spontaneous and impulsive. The calculated nature of the bullying revealed a chilling understanding of power dynamics and social manipulation among teenagers. As Nurul compiled the evidence, she realized the scale of the problem was much larger than anyone had imagined. It was not simply about peer pressure, it was about control. The Smile Challenge had become a tool for establishing social hierarchies, marking victims, and asserting influence over peers. Every shared video, every mocking comment, and every forced participation became part of a systematic effort to dominate the school's social landscape. Aiman's ordeal, though deeply personal, was part of a much larger phenomenon that threatened to spread beyond a single school, potentially influencing other towns and online communities. The journalist's work finally drew attention from local authorities. Police officers and child protection specialists were brought in to review the evidence. The organized nature of the bullying was undeniable, and for the first time, the victim's suffering was validated. Schools, parents, and community members began to understand that the Smile Challenge was far more than a viral trend. It was a weaponized form of peer pressure and intimidation. The discovery sparked outrage, forcing adults to confront the consequences of ignoring digital harassment and the dangers of leaving social media unchecked. For Aiman, the investigation brought a mixture of relief and anxiety. Knowing that someone was exposing the truth offered hope, yet it also meant that the bullies would soon face consequences. The challenge had taken months of emotional and psychological toll, and recovery would be slow. Still, the breakthrough marked a turning point. The Smile Challenge, once a source of fear, was now being examined, analyzed, and challenged. The veil of anonymity that had protected the perpetrators was beginning to lift, and the town was forced to confront the dark reality lurking behind a simple online trend. As the investigation into the Smile Challenge intensified, the situation for Aiman and other victims escalated in a way no one had anticipated. What had begun as psychological and digital harassment began to manifest in the real world. Anonymous messages turned into direct confrontations. Students who had been previously safe in the corridors now found themselves cornered, taunted, and sometimes even physically threatened. The sense of safety within the school evaporated. Every hallway, classroom, and outdoor space became a potential arena for humiliation or violence. The challenge, once a seemingly harmless game, had transformed into a tool of fear and intimidation that no one could escape. Aiman was one of the first to experience this shift. While walking home from school one afternoon, he noticed a small group of students lingering near the usual path. Initially, he thought they were friends, but as he drew closer, their intentions became clear. They blocked his way, forcing him to record another Smile Challenge video. The fear in his eyes, once captured and shared online, was now being exploited in person. He felt trapped, the lines between the online and offline world disappearing completely. The harassment had left his daily life under constant threat, and there was no longer a private sanctuary where he could feel safe. The bullying network behind the Smile Challenge had become more organized than anyone could have imagined. Leaders within the group coordinated their actions, ensuring that no victim could avoid scrutiny. Social media was used to monitor responses, track compliance, and plan encounters. Even those who attempted to resist quietly found themselves under constant surveillance. The challenge had evolved into a mechanism of control, enforcing submission through fear, peer pressure, and now physical intimidation. Aiman's experience was no longer isolated. It was part of a systematic campaign designed to dominate and humiliate. The escalation reached a terrifying peak when a few students attempted to trap Aiman in an abandoned part of town. He narrowly escaped, but the incident sent shockwaves through the community. Parents, once skeptical about the severity of the Smile Challenge, could no longer ignore the danger. Schools were forced to acknowledge the immediate threat to student safety. Authorities realized that the viral trend had shifted from psychological torment to potential physical harm, making it a serious criminal concern. Every shared video, every mocking post, and every organized encounter had contributed to a climate of fear and control. The realization that the harassment had turned violent forced the community to confront uncomfortable truths about social media and adolescent behavior. Viral challenges, once dismissed as trivial entertainment, were revealed to have the potential for real-world consequences. Teenagers who wielded these trends could manipulate fear, exploit insecurities, and create an environment where victims had little chance of protection. The Smile Challenge had become a dangerous weapon, both online and offline, highlighting the complex intersection of digital culture, peer pressure, and psychological vulnerability. For Aiman, the physical threats compounded the emotional trauma he had endured for months. Every step outside, every notification, every social interaction carried the potential for danger. Yet, amid the fear, a sense of determination began to emerge. The investigation, led by the journalist and supported by authorities, offered hope that the bullies would be held accountable. The Smile Challenge, which had once seemed unstoppable, was now facing exposure and confrontation. Still, the memory of the attacks lingered, a stark reminder of how quickly a viral trend could become a mechanism of terror. The town, once complacent about online trends, now grappled with the reality that a simple game could escalate into real-world danger. The Smile Challenge had taken innocent digital content and twisted it into a powerful instrument of intimidation, leaving victims like Aiman struggling to reclaim a sense of safety in a world where smiles could no longer be trusted. The growing public attention and the journalist's investigation finally forced the authorities to take the Smile Challenge seriously. Police officers, school administrators, and child protection specialists began a coordinated effort to confront the perpetrators. For the first time, the organized network of students responsible for months of torment faced scrutiny beyond the digital realm. Raids and interviews revealed the shocking depth of the bullying, exposing not only individual actions, but a broader culture of cruelty that had been carefully cultivated and executed over time. During the investigation, hidden motives behind the campaign emerged. Some students admitted they were seeking popularity, exploiting the viral trend as a shortcut to social influence and social hierarchy. Others confessed to acting out of revenge, targeting classmates over grudges that had existed long before the challenge began. A few were driven purely by jealousy, resentful of peers who excelled academically or socially. What initially seemed like mindless peer pressure was, in fact, a combination of ambition, malice, and a disturbing understanding of social manipulation. The Smile Challenge had become a lens through which the darker aspects of adolescent psychology were revealed. The school, now facing intense scrutiny, was forced to address systemic failures. Teachers and administrators who had dismissed early warnings were questioned about their oversight and their inaction. Policies that had once treated cyberbullying as minor or typical teenage behavior were replaced with stricter monitoring and clear consequences for harassment. The community began to realize that ignorance or denial had only allowed the Smile Challenge to grow unchecked. Awareness campaigns and counseling programs were initiated, emphasizing the serious real-life consequences of online behavior and the psychological impact of bullying. Court cases began, marking an unprecedented moment for the town. Evidence collected from social media accounts, private messages, and edited videos formed the backbone of the prosecutions. The victims, including Aiman, provided statements detailing the emotional and psychological toll of the bullying. The legal proceedings uncovered the meticulously organized nature of the attacks, demonstrating that the Smile Challenge had been used as a deliberate tool of control and intimidation. The trials revealed how social media, anonymity, and peer pressure could combine to create a dangerous environment for vulnerable students. For the community, the confrontation was a moment of reckoning. Parents, teachers, and local leaders were forced to confront uncomfortable truths about the prevalence of bullying and the underestimation of digital threats. Many were shocked by the sophistication with which teenagers had orchestrated the campaign, and the realization that a simple viral trend could escalate into a coordinated, harmful operation left lasting concern. The town had to accept that preventing such incidents required vigilance, education, and accountability, both online and offline. For Aiman, the legal and administrative actions offered a mixture of relief and lingering fear. Knowing that the perpetrators were facing consequences brought some comfort. Yet the months of fear, humiliation, and isolation had left deep emotional scars. The confrontation, while necessary, also highlighted the broader issue. A single viral trend had exposed vulnerabilities in the social, digital, and educational structures meant to protect students. By the end of the investigations and court proceedings, it became evident that the Smile Challenge was far more than a simple game. It was a powerful lesson about the consequences of digital trends, peer pressure, and unchecked cruelty. The community, now aware of the danger lurking behind innocent-looking online challenges, began rebuilding a culture of accountability, empathy, and vigilance. The ordeal left an indelible mark on everyone involved, serving as a reminder that even the smallest online trends could mask the darkest human intentions. The aftermath of the Smile Challenge left a lasting impact on Aiman, his family, and the entire community. With professional counseling and the support of his family, he started to rebuild his confidence. The panic attacks and sleepless nights gradually became less frequent, though the memories of public humiliation lingered in his mind. Every glance at a smartphone notification reminded him of how easily anonymity could be misused, and the Smile Challenge had left him permanently cautious about online interactions. Yet this caution also became a source of strength. He learned to navigate social spaces more carefully, to value his own boundaries, and to recognize the importance of speaking up against injustice for the students involved. In orchestrating the challenge, the consequences were severe. Legal action and school disciplinary measures left a mark on their futures, forcing them to confront the gravity of their actions. The trials revealed to the broader student body that viral trends and peer pressure were no excuse for cruelty. Some perpetrators expressed remorse, acknowledging that their pursuit of social influence and popularity had come at a terrible cost. Others struggled with the weight of public scrutiny and the realization that their actions had caused real, lasting harm. The school's administration, too, reflected on its failures, implementing systems to detect early signs of harassment and to intervene before trends could escalate into threats. The town itself underwent a transformation. Parents became more engaged in monitoring their children's online activity, and discussions about digital safety became a regular part of household routines. Community centers and local organizations held awareness campaigns, emphasizing the psychological impact of bullying and the importance of empathy in both digital and real-life interactions. Social media users, witnessing the widespread consequences of the Smile Challenge, became more conscious of the content they shared, understanding that even seemingly innocent participation could contribute to someone's suffering. Despite the progress, the incident left lingering questions about the influence of online trends and the vulnerability of teenagers in a digital age. Experts highlighted that the Smile Challenge was not an isolated incident, but part of a larger pattern, where viral games and social media trends could quickly shift from entertainment to tools of control. Schools, parents, and policymakers were urged to remain vigilant, recognizing that prevention required constant awareness, communication, and education. For Aiman, the experience ultimately became a story of resilience. While the scars of humiliation and fear remained, he had survived a campaign designed to break him. His survival symbolized the importance of awareness, intervention, and courage in the face of seemingly unstoppable digital forces. The Smile Challenge ended, but its shadow lingered, a reminder that even the simplest online trends could conceal hidden dangers, and that communities must work together to protect their most vulnerable members. The town had learned a painful lesson, one that would shape its approach to social media, education, and empathy for years to come.